Okay, it claims that I'm live, so I assume I'm live. This is me live streaming basically a brainstorm before I write up a document. And so, wow, it says I have an observer already. That must be an anomaly. Anyways, what was the title of this? Application architecture is not, and then I can't read the rest of it. Something like folder directories or naming folder directories, naming folders. So, what does that mean? Uh, in a lot of shops, especially working as a contractor, I come across um, the architect or the lead that wants to set out their vision, and their vision is that, hey, this is the architecture of our mobile application or our business application, and it's going to have this folder structure, right? The end. All right. So, what are some challenges with that? If architecture, I mean, it's an overloaded term, right? But if it's somewhat accepted that architecture could also mean or denote um, decisions that are hard to or challenging to reverse or require significant effort to reverse, then do folder names really fit that, right? And yes, I understand it's more than just folder names. It's you're moving specific code files in and out of these folders. I understand it, but is that really architecture? And to answer that question, or at least to address that question, we have to ask ourselves, what is the point of architecture? Like, what is the point? What what is it? All right. So, like, if I share my screen and I look up on Wikipedia, like what their definition of architecture is, let's see what we're going to see. And I mean, it's been a while since I looked this up, but architecture, right? And so then we could say definition. And it says the art or practice of designing and constructing buildings. That's the first one. The other one is the complex or carefully designed structure of something. Okay. The complex or carefully designed structure of something. Was that helpful? Um, you could be the judge of that. But let's dig into this deeper. The art or practice of designing. The complex or carefully designed. Okay. So if architecture seems to be tightly coupled to design, what is the definition of design? Hold up. Um, shoot. Design. Come here. Like that, right? A plan or drawing produced to show the look and function of workings of a building, garment, or other object before it is built or made, with emphasis on the plan. Okay. To show the look. And if we're talking about software, in regards to the plumbing and the routing of data back and forth to a data store and a screen, function. The number two definition is an arrangement of lines or shapes created to form a pattern or decoration. Okay. Over here it says a design is a plan or specification for the construction of an object or system, or the implementation of an activity or process, or the result of that plan or the specification in the form of prototype, product, or process. All right. So those are your definitions of architecture and design. And maybe those are the definitions. Okay. If I stop sharing, here's what's not in there. The purpose of architecture. The purpose of design, okay, are tightly coupled to, I won't say tightly coupled, but they're also related to professional experience. They're also related to testing. So what do they all have in common? With design, testing, and professional experience all have in common, they're the three pillars of reducing risk for a project's failure, right? I'll say that one more time. Design, testing, and professional experience are the three pillars for reducing the risk of a project failing. All right, so with that said, it's not declaring, hey, these are the folders that we're going to have, and you put these files in this folder, you put those files in this folder. Oh, by the way, we're just going to have one common library that we're going to throw all this in. We don't care about separation of concerns because that's only based on a class, right? Or a method, right? Separation of concerns, single responsibility principle. But that's not the case at all. And that's where a lot of people, I guess, have growth opportunities, okay? Because it's applicable to libraries, right? Dedicated libraries, right? When you think about a system, you think about the various layers of a system, right? If we're talking about a vertical slice of it. And, part of those layers are the UI or the presentation layer, right? And then you have your domain or your business domain layer, and you have your data layer when you store and retrieve data. Okay. If we're talking about mediators, or let's talk about specifically view models in regards to MVVM architecture, model view model that's common and specifically Microsoft-based development for native applications or cross-platform applications, hence WPF, Xamarin Forms, then your view model is supposed to be agnostic about a view. Your view model shouldn't even know that a view even exists. Your view model shouldn't even acknowledge that there's a client that's responsible for rendering data. Yet, I see it all the time where our view model tends to know that our client is a page, that it is a Xamarin Forms application. And this is where, no one gets hurt initially until the code base continues to evolve. And evolve is probably the wrong word. It's probably degrade. Okay. And so as a code base grows, right, now we have implementation details for application logic that's leaking into our view model, where our view model knows about the application pages, and it's going to perform navigation for us. And that's just not a wise decision, right? Let's keep things segregated. In regards to testability, let's not mix presentation logic with view model logic. They're different, right? Understand that Xamarin Forms, as an example, provides an item source, and that the item source is usually within the view model property. Okay, that's an unfortunate decision, but it is what it is, and that can be an exception. But it's let's, for the sake of testability, so that when anomalies are reported, and the first thing we want to do is see if we can reproduce that anomaly through just pure business logic. If we could do it through a unit test, then we can have some confidence of whether it's an integration issue or just a business logic issue. And then we can go further into integration tests. But let's have that ability. Let's use tests as tools. In order to use tests as tools, we need to write testable code. And then you are, when your decision is to have a single library that encompasses everything, then that pretty much leaves it up to developers to maintain discipline. And things get pretty complicated and risque when you leave it up to a human being to exercise discipline, right? Especially for a mission critical system. So let's leave it up to tooling to do that for us. Let's leave it up to the compiler to enforce business policy, to enforce separation of concerns. Let's not just say, no, we're going to have a monolith and these are our folders. And yeah, we're going to group our presentation files with our view models, even though they really shouldn't be grouped. But for the sake of, I don't know what I know, we're just going to do that. That is a recipe for higher maintainability issues, right? And I even butchered that. That's a recipe for maintenance concerns. And so, professional experience, testing, and design, they all reduce risk in regards to a project failing. We should comply with that. That's it. So I'm about to write up a document, and I use this as a platform to capture my thoughts and hopefully to expose any light bulbs I never considered. Unfortunately, no new light bulbs went off, but that's okay though. All right, I'm out. Peace. Adios.